about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
Dali 1-877-DOC-DALI. So when you hear an individual who makes an announcement that they want Jews in detention centers or jailed, you're thinking, all right, is this something being read out of a history book from the 1930s or during the Russian pogroms or during the Crusades? What history book are we reading this from? Well, we're reading this from an Instagram post in 2026. This is how disgusting politics is getting. So this post, and it has been verified that this was hers. It is a Democrat running in one of the Texas congressional districts. She goes by Maureen for Congress, known as Maureen Galindo. She posts, and she's proud of herself and doubled down on it, by the way. She says, when Maureen gets into Congress, I'm not making this up, she'll write legislation. This is what she posts. She'll write legislation so that all Zionism and support of Zionism is undoubtedly anti-Semitic, since it's Zionists harming the Semites. She'll turn Carnes ICE detention center into a prison for American Zionists and former ICE officers for human trafficking. It will also be a castration processing center for pedophiles, which will probably be most of the Zionists. Now, what? So many people have asked, what is a Zionist? Well, to me, a Zionist is somebody that wants to ensure that what we have seen in our history, where Jews have always been persecuted, chased out of their homes, killed for being Jewish, that there is a place in their ancestral homeland that provides them safety. It doesn't have to be a lot of land. As you see, it's a little sliver in the whole area of the Middle East, but where their ancestors have been, that we protect a place that allows Jews to not be murdered, raped, experimented on, exterminated, become the final solution. If you are a Zionist, you're not only Jewish, Catholic, you could be Mormon, you could be Muslim, wanting there to be a safe place, for there to be a community and a population that is always, appearing to be attacked and vilified and with threats of extermination and exterminated. Somebody who is a Zionist wants to make sure there is a safe place for them. When she talks about pedophiles, is she talking about Hamas who was raping kids? Is she what is she talking about? And when she's talking about putting Zionists, so if you want to support and make sure that Israel has a safe place, which actually helps all countries. During World War II, America did not want millions and millions of Jews coming to their border. In fact, in America, they turned away the boats, and many of them went back and got killed. So other countries who don't want Jews escaping there, right, are also in support of there being a homeland and a place where Jews could be safe. It's ridiculous that we have countries that turn Jews away, just like it's ridiculous to see these Nigerian Christians be slaughtered and these Iranian citizens be slaughtered by their, we have disgusting people, but that rule groups of individuals that should never be in that power. But if you're a Zionist, you want to make sure that there is a homeland providing safety for Jews. And just like United Arab Emirates provides safety for their citizens. Saudi Arabia provides safety for theirs. Jordan, Egypt, Libya, Lebanon. This is what you want. You want there to be a place where Jews can call home. That's it. But people have said, well, so we're not saying the word Jew, we're going to call it Zionist. And this is a woman running for office. And you know what? She doubled down. She starts saying that they're billionaires And that, I don't understand what this woman is thinking. And for her to think that jailing somebody who wants there to be a safe area for them to be, I mean, this is it shows that these people are sick in the head, and she should not represent any district in America. I mean, she's stupid. She's completely stupid. She does not understand and value American values, where all men are created equal. And to think that somebody should be jailed for wanting there to be safety for Jews. And by the way, Israel provides safety for the LGBTQAI plus community that doesn't have safety in Gaza because of Hamas. They provide safety for Muslims. They provide benefits for all people of all religions in Israel. So a Zionist country is helping not only Jews, but everybody else. I got to tell you, their Pride Week and Pride Month is one of the most robust in the whole entire world. Why? Because Israel protects others. That's what they do. And so looking at how people are turning what Hamas did to Gaza as well, now anybody, who is against Hamas is I mean, I don't know what her reasoning is or why she tried to justify this, but it's anti-Semitism, and it's also anti-American, and it's anti-Catholic, it's anti-LDS, it's anti-Muslim. So there's many Muslims, there's many individuals out there that want to ensure that Israel is a safe place. The stereotype that all Muslims want Israel off the face of the earth is no, that's a radicalized jihad faction sect of that. Most Muslims that I mean, I've been to Israel multiple times, and the Muslims are very, very good to Israelis, and Israelis are very good to the Muslims. That's they live hand in hand. And so I know TV wants to make it look like everybody's at each other's throat, but I know when people say, "Really, you met Muslim Zionists?" Of course I have. Yes, that so. Seeing this woman now want to arrest and imprison American Zionists, that's her big plan for representing America. She's ridiculous, and she needs psychiatric help. 1-877 Doc Dolly, don't go away.
Hi, everyone. Super Bowl champ Vernon Davis here from Legal Help Center. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up, because we have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. You can find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. The call is free, the consultation is free, and you can speak with a live agent right now. So if you or someone you know were injured in an accident of any kind, call now to find out if you have a case and how much you could potentially get.
Thanks, Vernon. You heard it, folks. If you've been injured, call and find out how much you qualify for. Call 800-679-0800. That's 800-679-0800. 800-679-0800. Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states. Not available in California.
Hi, it's Mark Falter, host of the Financial Fitness Show. I strongly believe that no one should ever pay 1 penny more in taxes than they are legally obligated. Unfortunately, for most hardworking Americans, this just isn't the case. Why? Because most people spend more time planning next weekend's getaway than trying to ensure they're going to pay less in taxes. My financial fitness team has put together some materials that I know are going to help you. It's the Tax Savings Kit. Tax Savings Kit includes 3 things: free tax analysis, top 10 ways to pay less in taxes, and an investor's guide to taxes. Now, how do you get it? Simple. 866-764-2635. Again, 866-764-2635. I'm Mark Falter. This is Financial Fitness, making personal finance profitable.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So the Democratic National Convention has finally, after a while, published the autopsy report on what happened in the 2024 election. This has kind of been long awaited because I love talking about Democratic strategy and Republican strategy. And as with anybody going into the midterms, they want to know what worked, what didn't, unless maybe they didn't. And that's why it kind of took so long for this to come out. And, this is obviously based on some data, some polling, as well as opinions. And I told you what I think the Democrats should have done. And this is what I had predicted that was going to happen. And I was wrong about that. I thought after Biden got elected, he was going to struggle. And rather than Biden losing a re-election bid, Biden, before his last year, to give Kamala Harris some more time, retire. Then he would get credit for promoting and allowing there to be the first woman president. And then she becomes an incumbent when she runs for the 2024 election. I think that's probably what the Democrats should have done, and they didn't do that. Why? Well, because I miscalculated. I thought Biden liked Kamala Harris. And from what we understand, they didn't like each other, or maybe it was Jill who didn't like her. And so what ended up happening was Biden's like, no, I'm not giving it to her. I'm going to run again. And we're all like, you barely got through these last 4 years with notes and people propping you up and all your trips to Delaware. There's not your auto penning. How are you going to run another 4 years? And we were right. He ended up having stage 4 prostate cancer, and he needs to take care of himself. And how his doctors missed that? Either they knew and didn't want to say, or his doctors didn't examine him properly. So that's still, nobody's really talking about that. How do you leave office? And within weeks of leaving office, we find out you have stage 4 metastatic prostate cancer. Sad. I want Biden to do well, pain-free. But probably what would have helped the Democrats is letting people see a different face than Biden. And with Kamala Harris, especially with her telling, Sunny Hostin, I can't think of doing anything different. When she was asked, what would you do different? And as I've said, her answer should have been, what do you do when you are not wanting to throw your boss under the bus, but you are, in a failed administration? Say, look, President Biden came in 2020 with a whole slew of different issues. COVID, the pandemic. I'm going to be coming in 2025. And in 2025, there's going to be these issues. So these are the issues that I am going to have to tackle on day one. Easy answer. But she struggled thinking on her feet. And I understand. I really blame the PR people. I mean, they could have really guided them better. So I think the autopsy report should bring that up. But it's 200 pages. I'm still sifting through it. But some of the takeaways is that they thought that being anti-Trump was enough. They, I believe, miscalculated how many people liked Trump. Another thing that I don't know if the autopsy brings up on this, it might not say it word for word, but people felt like they were going to get canceled if they supported Trump. And if you talk to people in California, especially in Hollywood, they're going to say what they have to say to keep their job. So you're going to have individuals going, oh, yeah, screw Trump. Oh, yeah, I'm voting for Kamala. And they're like, okay, get me to the poll. I can't get to the poll fast enough. So, when you look at these polls, if you are of a party that seems to be a little bit more demonizing or associated more with the cancel culture, even though most Democrats wouldn't cancel you, the fringed did. People are going to say, you know what? I just can't take that risk. And so you had polls saying, oh yeah, Kamala Harris is leading resoundingly. That's because people were afraid to say they like Trump. So that's going to hurt you. And then they said, so the Kamala Harris campaign got cocky. They were like, looks like we're good. We got a boost week 1 or 2. We're not Trump. That's all we have to do is say we're not Trump. Biden's policies were fine. And the border is going to bring in enough people to vote. And nope, they found that didn't work. They also found that that the Biden administration didn't necessarily help her. Now, there was what the Biden administration had a choice to support her or not. But the way Biden was pushed out, like I said, this could have been done differently. I predicted he would have been like, I'm in control here. And you know what? I got some health issues. I'm going to take some time off. I want the American people led by somebody who could devote 100% of their time and not be distracted with health issues. So I am going to now promote my vice president. I don't think they got along. I think the teams were very fragmented. Not that I don't think Lyndon B. Johnson and JFK got along. All right. I don't believe, Mike Pence and Trump got along. So they said that kind of hurt, that they didn't have the Biden administration support them as much. They did say that the transgender ad was very damaging, where the one where they say Kamala is for they, them, and not us. I don't remember. I remember that ad. I don't watch a lot of political ads, but they said that might have. They didn't really hit the middle class, and it was more identity politics. And so what does the middle class want? Well, the middle class wants what everybody else wants: safety, secure borders, good schools. You know, if their daughter is competing in track, she has a chance to win, and she doesn't have to shower with somebody who might make her feel uncomfortable because they're a biological male. And so when as we're looking at this autopsy report, support of the LGBTQIA plus community is a beautiful thing. I support them. But when you don't read the room and you don't understand that your party under Obama, under Bill Clinton, under JFK, really did a lot of progress for women's rights and women in sports and women now having the ability to compete. And look at our women hockey team. And then you're going to sideline a woman by saying she's got to compete against a biological male. That I think a big thing we're going to also see in this report is how there was kind of mixed messaging. And you saw a lot of Democrats going, well, wait a second, look at what happened with the vaccine. I thought we were about women's choice and people's choice. But now you're mandating the vaccine. What are we about choice and personal choice or not? Are we about women and elevating women and allowing women to have opportunities that men can't have? Or are we about, look, you're not as good as a biological male. Get to the back of the podium. So, these are things that they have to, an autopsy is never an easy thing to do. And I've done autopsies. You're looking at what happened and you're hoping that that'll help others from not having that same fate. And they're finding that, your Obama Democrats are harder to hold on to. And Obama was one of the most popular Democratic presidents ever. Same thing with Bill Clinton. I loved Bill Clinton. I voted for him. I mean, so if the Democrats want to get somebody to love and be behind them, they have to be, more appreciative of who is actually, voting for them. I think another thing that I haven't been able to read the whole autopsy report, but I hope they say something about being anti-man. A Democratic Party will never be able to come back into the White House if they don't have male support. And so if you are saying men are the problem, white men, you're going to lose. You don't want to alienate anybody. You don't want to say, well, this person's bad, so you have to be with us. And that's kind of what, and I understand now Trump's calling Democrats Democrats and things like that. I don't like any of that. But what I like is, look, if you're for this, we have a home for you. And it was interesting because after the election, I was getting my hair done and there was a lady, who registered Democrat, worded it beautifully. She goes, this is why we lost. This is why the Democrats lost. is because they didn't offer you a home or a place if you disagreed with one or two things. She said, not everybody agrees on everything, and you felt sidelined. And so if you're like, I really kind of want my daughters to be able to, compete against a biological male, or I really don't want the COVID vaccine, you didn't have a place in the Democratic Party. And that's making you lose people. Okay, somebody doesn't want to feel like it's by force. And even though that was the fringe, it wasn't everybody. You do have moderates. But now that we're getting more progressives, and we're also getting Democrats that are, anti-Israel and anti-Jew, you're alienating a lot of people who used to be your base. And your Obama Democrats are not going to be with you for 2028. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
And we are back at the Dr. Dolly Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOCDALI. So, this Somali fraud scheme is just the tip of the iceberg. What we saw in Minnesota, what we're seeing now in California, Maine. And I am, I'm not looking forward to see what happened and where our money went. Finally, somebody's looking into it. And now we're starting to get people who are being held accountable. So we're being told that the woman in Midwest who allegedly masterminded the $250 million Somali-linked fraud scam has been sentenced to more than 41 years in prison today. Amy Buck, 45 years old, was convicted last March of multiple counts involving conspiracy, wire fraud, and bribery for her role in the Feeding Our Future scam. Prosecutors called this the country's largest COVID-era fraud. Feeding Our Future received $250 million in federal funds. They falsely claimed to be serving 91 meals for hungry children. Instead, according to Daily Mail, the taxpayer money was used to finance expensive lifestyles, including her own. U.S. District Judge Nancy Bracel made an example of Bach as she sentenced her to prison and admonished her in front of the packed courtroom. She said, "This was a vortex of fraud and you were at the epicenter. A sentence of less than 500 months would not do justice to the people of Minnesota who in a very real sense were the victims of this fraud." Assistant U.S. Attorney Rebecca Klein told the court that the government believed that disabling Amy Bach from ever meaningfully participating in society ever again was the only just outcome. Now, she was in tears. She apologized. She says, "I don't have the words to express how horrible I feel." She goes, "I know I'm responsible," she reported to the Minnesota Star Tribune. Now, most of the defendants charged in connection with the scam are Somali and hold American citizenship. Miss Bach is white. Klein said that she was the leader. Attorney Klein said she was the leader of the entire scheme. And she's the maximum prison sentence was supposed to be about, I guess, 100 years. And so she was the founder and executive director of the Feeding Our Future nonprofit, which participated in the federal child nutrition program. As part of the scam, sites created by the nonprofit claimed to be serving meals to thousands of hungry children per day. This was within weeks of being created. Shell companies were allegedly created to receive and launder the money obtained through the fraud. You know, if you just had, just If you used 1/1000th that effort, you could hold your own job. You could do, and you could stay out of jail. Look at the work these people put into this. She said Bach established protocols for the fraud to go undetected and said she was acting on behalf of a fraud scheme. She created a fake board of directors alongside accompanied fake board minutes. She had argued that Feeding Our Future provided meals worth between $80 million and $132 million. In total, the loss in the scam was deemed to be about $243 million. Now, I believe she said she never met Omar Ilan and some of the other, she didn't work directly with any of the other, shall we say, public officials that are now kind of being questioned as to how did they not know. But she had apparently given false testimony, repeatedly perjured herself. So now people are kind of wondering, what does she know? She gave her boyfriend $1 million for renovating the offices. Yet, they didn't see that. Now, the boyfriend, apparently his name is Empress Malcolm Watson Jr., 41 years old, was not charged in connection with the fraud, but he was charged with 2 felony counts for filing false and fraudulent individual income tax returns. So investigators started to dive into his tax history when they received a tip related to a separate criminal investigation. And his income was about $1 million between 2020 and 2022, with funds coming from his work at his significant other business. So they started to look, and then, they found more. And, the details are astonishing. But, if you are in charge of if I ever ran for governor, and I was ever going to become governor or a state representative, all right, you want to check in on your residents and your constituents. You check in on them. And one thing you definitely want to do is check in on the charities. Do the charities have everything they need? Is there anything you could do to help support your charities? What's happening? And I would not necessarily run the audit, but every time I work with a charity, I visit, I study it, I research it, I check them out. Because I want to know that individuals are getting what they need. And I also want to know that if I'm going to put my name behind it and help support them, that they're not a fraud. And so when you are in high public office, and we're looking at $250 million that ended up escaping an auditor, escaping your watch. First, if you have that many hungry children, you really would leave that to just one charity? That charity said that they were there to help millions of impoverished children, or making 91 million meals. Okay, so if they're making 91 million meals, not sure how many, if it was 3 meals a day for that, let's say then 30 million children. But if you have millions of children within your state that needs meals, you're going to just leave that to just one charity? If you're a public official, you're going to want to check in on these children. Why do they need meals? What is failing in the school system? Because the school's supposed to feed them for free. They're supposed to have welfare, Social Security, Medicaid, SNAP. What's failing? And why do we have to rely on additional charities? What is failing? Is it that we need more money? Somebody's not watching this, and they're like, oh, okay, Feeding Our Future is handling things for us. Hey, good job, guys. Don't you want to check on Feeding Our Future? And go, look, you guys are providing 91 million meals to kids that are starving. Can you let us see these kids? What else do they, if these kids are starving, they might also have medical issues. What's happening in school? Are they going to school? Are the schools giving them meals? And how are we working with the school meals? Some schools will also offer free breakfast and after school snack. If you're a public official, you're on top of something like that. And see, why kids? Well, kids, they use kids because you can't take pictures of kids. You can't advertise the kids without parental consent. So you can't have pictures of somebody else's kids. You know, if they're an adult, there's a little bit more wiggle room as to, you know, show us pictures of what's going on. But when it's kids, their identity, you have to, put that blur on their face and get permission from parents and things like that. So people are like, oh, yeah, this is for kids. This is for kids. Who's going to interview the kids? They think nobody's going to interview them. So we have to do a much better way of stopping the fraud and finding the fraud. And we have to hold our public officials responsible. Because one is money was mismanaged under their watch. And two, why didn't they find solutions for these kids who are so-called starving that necessitated Amy Box feeding our future? You know? Just doesn't make a lot of sense. 1-877 Doc Dolly.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. Because we have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. We'll help you find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. If you were hurt in a car accident, truck accident, motorcycle accident, rideshare accident, slip and fall, or any other type of accident, call our 24/7 hotline now and let us help you find out how much your case is potentially worth. Call 800-978-6800. That's 800-978-6800. 800-978-6800. I'm Gina Hart, here with spokesman Jack Mercer. So Jack, tell our listeners who should give us a call right now.
Well, Gina, first off, thank you for having me join you here in the studio. It's always great to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now. The call is free, the consultation is free, and with our no-fee guarantee, you pay nothing unless we win you money.
That's great advice. Thanks, Jack. And is it true that the Legal Help Center is open 24/7?
That's right, Gina. We're open anytime you need us, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you or someone you know were injured in an accident of any kind, call now and let us help you find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-978-6800. That's 800-978-6800. 800-978-6800. Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. Not available in California. May not be available in all states.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Dolly Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. So this is shocking, but not surprising. And it's a shame that this is going on. But we are being told that in Massachusetts, students and communities organizations are suing to desegregate the schools. Here we are in 2026. And we still have segregation. A lawsuit filed Wednesday on behalf of students and community organizations in Massachusetts argued that the state is illegally maintaining schools that are racially segregated. concentrating Black and Latino students in high poverty districts with fewer opportunities. The lawsuit challenges the state's practice of assigning students to schools based solely on where they live, which can lead to patterns of housing segregation being replicated in school systems. See, I'll tell you what needs to be done to solve that. They say the case is the latest example, this is being reported by Los Angeles Times, of efforts to address segregation and funding inequities through state-level litigation. They said even before the Trump administration began taking steps to release districts in the Deep South from court-ordered desegregation efforts, they say integration efforts have fallen far from their peak decades ago when the federal government intervened in school systems around the United States. So the plaintiffs include 9 students and 4 community organizations from segregated schools across Massachusetts, including Springfield, Holyoke, Boston, Lawrence, Brockton, Lynn, and Worcester. They say the districts border more affluent, predominantly white districts where the plaintiffs are unable to enroll. They say in response to the lawsuit, the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education said it does not have the authority to change school district boundaries, nor the power to compel schools to allow students from other districts to enroll. And so, the 2024 State Advisory Council report found that 63% of all schools in Massachusetts are segregated or intensely segregated, and that the state education department had fallen short of its oversight duties. They say schools that have higher concentrations of students of color saw worse outcomes on metrics like graduation and college matriculation. So the state constitution guarantees that every student should have an adequate education, has a right to that, and equal protection under the law. But according to the attorney for civil rights, said they have failed to do so for Black and Latino students. So when we started this whole school district issue, okay, in the olden days, your child would walk to school. Okay, this was way before buses. And there had to be a schoolhouse in walking distance. And you would take that child, whether it was at a church run by a nun, run by a parent, but you would have the village school. And it would be in walking distance. Parents would drop them off. Kids would go to that school, walking distance to come home. And so when districts started to form, it was, well, this school is going to be for this village. This school is for this village. We have X amount of resources. A teacher can only house this many students. If we have more students, we'll build 2 schools. If somebody from another village or town wants to come over, because they like this teacher better because this teacher's better looking, no, you have to be in the school where your city, where your village or your town is. And there were parameters that were set up. Before we had more uniform education, right? It was, unfortunately, a teacher's discretion. What do the parents want the kid to learn? Arithmetic, history, math. Well, things started to become more standardized. And the schools started to become more standardized within a county or within a district or within a state. And the textbooks started to be agreed upon. Then people, as they started to sprawl out from the suburbs, it was a lot more difficult to have a school in walking distance. Now, mind you, kids used to walk 1.5 miles to school. But they changed that because that could be dangerous. They're like, we don't want a child to walk more than that. So as buses were designed and cars and automobiles started to make its way into, modern day, the school districts would provide they would provide a transportation for them. However, there were some states, and I remember this in the 80s, where you would be bused into different locations and you would not go to your school. And they would do that to try to make the patient population more diverse. And so they would bus some people from one neighborhood to another neighborhood to another. And I think still some districts still do that. But one of the reasons why is they started to see that parents who might have been in a more affluent area were able to kind of manipulate the resources of that school. So, for example, my kids went to Bishop Gorman High School. Bishop Gorman has one of the most robust high school football teams. Well, some of the parents, some of the donors were able to give these kids on the team a lot of resources. And so another school that might not have, the same donors, right, may then struggle. And this is so the movement to try to minimize that and mitigate that, in some ways was successful, in some ways wasn't. And you still do have parents that say, well, I want to buy this for the students, or I want the kids to have this, or let me donate to this. And basically what they're supposed to do is donate to a school district and then let the school district decide what the money is. You can't just help one school over another. But then issues came up with, my school, the school my kids go to, help my property value. So I need to know that my kid is going to one of the quote unquote good schools. Now, this is where things got scary. This is where people were then segregating, saying, well, I want my school to be of one race. I don't want, and that ended up needing to be rectified with civil rights and Martin Luther King, and God bless how our country finally, stopped segregating. And that's coming back, by the way. We're having graduations where you have graduations where you could be segregated and you could choose to be with your nationality, with your race. Segregation's been coming back as you have college kids asking for that, where they want white-free zones. I think there should be absolutely no segregation at all. Yeah, you want to be with Catholics, you want to be with Latinos, you want to be with, there's lots of things that can be done privately. But when you have something that is a part of a government system, you having segregation can be kind of dangerous. And so now there's this implied segregation, or this unintentional, which could be intentional, when you look deeper into it, where they say, well, look, in this neighborhood, it's predominantly Latino or predominantly white or predominantly black. So that's what the school is. The school is, but if somebody wants to switch schools, they can't. If somebody thinks that there's an education better at another, see, how to solve this is no school should have better education than another. All these schools should be offering the same degree and level of education. If the teachers aren't performing well, then hire new teachers. But no child should be left behind, not because they live in one zip code than another. And I told you how schools should be. The mornings are your concrete, smaller classes of math, reading, science, etc. And then your afternoon is all your life skills. That could be managed statewide, even federal, and ensure that everybody's getting the same experience. But because people fear that one school, is not getting the same resources as another, they want to move, and then there should never be inequality in schools. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, don't go away.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by Financial Fitness Show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.